It was a chilly autumn evening when Sarah found herself home alone for the first time in years. The house was an old Victorian with creaky floors and dim lighting, but it had always felt like a sanctuary. Her husband, John, was away on a business trip, and their two children were spending the weekend at their grandparents' house. The air was filled with the smell of pine from the burning fireplace, and the faint sound of rain tapping against the windows added to the cozy atmosphere. Sarah settled into the plush armchair in the living room, a cup of hot cocoa in one hand and a novel in the other. She was looking forward to a quiet night of uninterrupted reading. The house was eerily quiet, a stark contrast to the usual chaos that came with having two young children. She relished the silence, but it also made her a little uneasy. As the night wore on, Sarah began to hear strange noises. At first, it was just the usual creaks and groans of an old house, but soon she heard what sounded like footsteps upstairs. She brushed it off, thinking it must be her imagination. After all, she had locked all the doors and windows before settling in for the night. But the noises persisted. Every few minutes, she would hear a soft thump or a faint rustling sound. She put down her book and listened intently, her heart starting to race. The sound of footsteps grew louder, as if someone was walking around in the room above her. Trying to calm her nerves, Sarah decided to check the house. She grabbed the flashlight from the kitchen drawer and made her way up the creaky staircase. Each step seemed to echo through the silent house, amplifying her anxiety. She reached the top of the stairs and stood in the hallway, listening. The noise had stopped. Taking a deep breath, Sarah opened the door to the master bedroom and shone the flashlight around. The room was empty, just as she had left it. She checked the other bedrooms and found nothing out of place. Feeling slightly relieved, she headed back downstairs. Just as Sarah reached the bottom of the stairs, the power went out. The house was plunged into darkness, and she could hear the rain pounding harder against the windows. She fumbled for her phone and turned on the flashlight app. The beam of light cut through the darkness, casting long shadows on the walls. Suddenly, she heard a loud bang from the kitchen. Her heart pounded in her chest as she slowly made her way toward the noise. The kitchen door was ajar, and she could see a faint light flickering inside. She pushed the door open and froze. Standing in the middle of the kitchen was a figure, shrouded in darkness. The flickering light came from a candle on the counter, casting an eerie glow on the figure's face. It was a man, his face pale and eyes hollow, staring straight at her. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. "Who are you? What are you doing in my house?" she demanded, trying to keep her voice steady. The man didn't respond. Instead, he took a step forward, and Sarah noticed he was holding a knife. Panic surged through her, and she turned to run, but the man was faster. He grabbed her arm and pulled her back, his grip like a vice. "Please, let me go," she screamed, struggling to break free. Just as Sarah thought she was done for, the man suddenly let go of her arm and collapsed to the floor, writhing in pain. The knife clattered to the ground, and Sarah quickly grabbed it, pointing it at him. "Stay back," she shouted, her voice trembling. The man looked up at her, his eyes filled with terror. "I didn't mean to scare you," he gasped. "Just I needed help." Sarah was taken aback. She kept the knife pointed at him, but allowed him to speak. The man explained that he was a neighbor from a few streets over. He had been running from someone who was trying to kill him, and had broken into her house seeking refuge. He hadn't meant to frighten her. He was just desperate. Sarah didn't know whether to believe him or not, but she couldn't deny the fear in his eyes. She called the police and explained the situation. Within minutes, officers arrived and took the man into custody. They confirmed his story. He was indeed being pursued by a dangerous criminal. As the police escorted the man out, Sarah felt a mixture of relief and lingering fear. She locked all the doors and windows again, double-checking each one. The power eventually came back on, and she collapsed into her armchair, her heart still racing. The house was silent once more, but this time, the silence felt different. It wasn't the cozy, comforting silence she had felt earlier. It was a silence tinged with the memory of fear and the realization that safety can be an illusion. That night changed Sarah's life forever. She never again took her safety for granted and became more vigilant. The house, once a sanctuary, now held a lingering sense of unease. And as she drifted off to sleep, she couldn't help but wonder what other secrets the old house might be hiding. and what other horrors might be lurking just out of sight. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your own experiences in the comments. Until next time, stay safe and keep your doors locked.